Let's see. What is up, everybody? I am Coach Matt O'Brien, and that man right there is Chris Eastman. Welcome to the FAT2Fit show, the show that's going to document one man's journey from morbid obesity to optimum health. I'm your host for this week, Coach Matt O'Brien, and I'm joined by my client and really good friend, Chris Eastman, who has bravely decided to take control of his health. Over the next year, we'll be sharing Chris's weight loss journey with you, from the initial challenges of adjusting his diet to the exhilaration of reaching his new fitness goals. Our mission is to motivate and inspire our listeners who may be struggling with their weight by showing that it's possible to overcome even the toughest obstacles and achieve your goals. But before we dive into Chris's transformation, we want to make it clear that the FAT2Fit show does not constitute medical advice. This is our legal disclaimers. Anyone who is attempting to lose weight should consult with their doctor and ensure their diet and exercise routine are safe and appropriate for your individual needs. So come along with us on this journey from fat to fit as we work together to transform Chris's life and prove that with the right mindset, anything is possible. How's that for an intro, Chris?
I love it, dude. I love it. Let's go.
All right. Well, let's dive right in. This is episode 1, and we are basically going to talk about the first week. And that started with Chris reaching out to me. Chris and I go way back. We're kind of in a mastermind and Christian brothers, and we meet once a month or so at Outback typically and kind of just talk about life as business owners. And recently you share with our listeners kind of what was going through your head as you kind of asked me for help, essentially.
Always been a big dude my whole life. And about 4 years ago, I had made the decision to have gastric sleeve surgery. I was 455 pounds at the time, and I got down to 255 pounds, and I maintained for a while. COVID came. My wife started to love into cooking breads and cookies and brownies and all the things. I'm not blaming her, honey. If you listen, I'm not blaming you. But I started going sideways. The next thing you know, it just got spiraled out of control. And I was having issues with blood pressure issues again. I was having issues fitting in clothes again, feeling comfortable again, feeling confident going into being in the business world. And I reached out to you and said, Matt, I need your help, dude. I need something to change. I need my life to change. I'm also not 20 years old anymore. A lot of people around me having heart attacks and strokes and all kinds of medical problems, and, just feeling like I'm not invincible and 20 years old anymore. It was time to start making a real life decision for change.
Great explanation. My question with that, and maybe this might inspire some other people in the same situation, is why couldn't you do it alone? Chris, for everybody listening, is a successful businessman. He manages multiple multi-million-dollar businesses, so he's got the stress of all that and 100 plus employees, just all that constant swirl of stress. So you've obviously tackled probably arguably one of the life's hardest challenges. I would say that'd be running a business, a successful marriage, and losing weight and keeping it off are probably top 3 on the list. But why couldn't you, being so successful, do it by yourself?
It's a good question. Just because you have business success doesn't mean that you have success in other arenas of your life. I feel like fitness and weight loss and just all this as a whole is not to be done. It's not done well by yourself, right? You can't build a business by yourself. You can't have a marriage by yourself. I don't know that you can have, at least for me personally, can hold myself accountable and keep myself on the path by myself. And I tried to do it for 2 years on my own and got no results. Could I have done it on my own? I don't think I could, to be honest with you. I think I needed direction. I needed coaching. I needed mentorship. I needed push. I needed accountability. Things I was lacking in my personal life, right? At work, I'm the boss, right? I am the accountability. Outside of that, I don't have any accountability other than to myself. And sitting on the couch and crying your eyes away to stress and eating Chick-fil-A waffle fries, isn't it? No one's going to come to you and say, you can't have that, Chris, So this is part of it, is the accountability side.
Yeah, I think speaking for us hard-headed, egotistical, pride-driven males, whether it comes to our faith journey, our business journey, or our health journey, it's very typical of us to kind of go internal and think we can do it alone. If we ask for help, that makes us weak.
Yeah.
And actually, in the Bible app this morning, I have a family member that's dealing with some stress, business stress himself. And it was all about pride preventing us from asking for help, and how, in a sense, we're really doing ourselves a disservice because, like you said, it takes a village to be successful in business. It takes a village to be parents and raise kids. So I think the weight loss journey, for those of you listening, I've been doing this a long time, and the success of my clients, the more support system they have in their social networks, in having a coach, and also in their relationship at home with their spouse or partner, all of those are, critical criteria to success. And the people that go it alone or don't have much support, it's a much harder journey. So Chris, I commend you for recognizing that and having the awareness to realize that. And I always think that's a huge step. And my wife and I talk a lot about awareness and ownership in our journeys, and being the victor, not the victim, because we can't always control our circumstances, but we can definitely control how we react to them. And asking for help is a huge step. So kudos to you. And you asked me on that. And maybe you can document or for our listeners kind of what that first week was like, how we got started on the scale. I don't know if you remember, but I remember when you stepped on it, and it was kind of maybe shock therapy. But walk us through that experience, what that was like on our InBody 570, and what it revealed to you.
Yeah. Well, it revealed that I was much more out of shape and fatter than I thought I was. So why the clothes didn't fit made sense when I stepped on there. It was stressful. It was, I was embarrassed. It was a little bit of mental defeat for myself, knowing where I had come from to where I was at. It didn't feel good. Nothing felt good about it. I guess the only thing I would say that felt good about it is that I knew there was a line in the sand, and stepping on that was like, hey, this is the line in the sand. Like, this is it. It doesn't get any worse than here. It only gets better from here. So, the InBody gives you a lot of insight into a lot of things in your body, which was kind of cool to see, So it was just it was emotional, just kind of figuring out, like, man, like, I really let myself go this far. Like, and then all the fear and doubt and things creep in, is like, man, like, can I really do this? Is it really going to work? Do I really have the effort in me to do it? Am I really going to push? Am I really going to be the guy, do this? I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's kind of what I was going through my head when I stepped on it.
Yeah. And sometimes, typically past failures can be that little devilish voice on our shoulder, and like, here we go again. And we kind of have to, did that little voice pop up on your shoulder?
Yeah. I mean, I remembered when I was standing there and I saw the weight number, right? 361.8 pounds, I think is what the number was. So really large number. I remember being at Tony Robbins earlier this year. And I remember when he opened up the show, he was like, okay, stand up if you're a business owner. And like 90% of the people stood up. And he's like, all right, stay standing if you deal with anxiety. And everybody stood up. And it was like, stay standing if you deal with depression. And everybody stood up. And it was like, look around. You're not alone. Stop being hard on yourself. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of coming back in waves as I was standing on it going, man, I was getting hard on myself and I was beating myself up. And I could hear Tony Robbins in the background saying, look, you're not the only one. Right. You're not in this by yourself. You're not alone. Right. Mm-hmm. You can do this. You've done it before.
Absolutely. And that will probably be one of the big takeaways each week. I hope we'll have some big takeaways from the show that just come out organically in our conversation. Mm-hmm. And this week is just that message of, don't do it alone. It's trying to do things on an island is a lonely process, and we'll cheat on ourselves first when nobody's looking. So sometimes having that accountability partner, that coach, that support system is probably one of the top 3 determining factors of success. And one of the other 3 that we're going to dive into now is your why. And I always insist and encourage my clients and people I get the blessing to work with is, let's talk about why you want to achieve this goal. For you, and correct me if I'm wrong, we want to get you healthy and in all senses of the word. And weight isn't really a catch-all be-all for health, and we'll be talking about that throughout the show. You can be overweight and healthy, so I just want to dispel that myth. And we'll document through the blood work. And this is a 1-year journey. It's going to be really fun and exciting, just an eye-opening for both of us and our listeners and our audience. So I'm excited for that. But tell us a little bit about your family, what you're working for besides yourself, and your why, what we call, your reason for wanting to achieve this goal. And I had you do an exercise, and you can walk us through that.
Yeah. So, good question. So for me, I feel called by the Lord. First of all, my household, we serve Jesus Christ first and foremost.
Amen.
And my wife is second, my kids are third to that, and then my family is my businesses are what's left, right? So I feel very blessed, and I feel like God calls us to be a blessing to those who are blessed. And so, my mom died at 54 years old from heart attack. My mom was overweight her whole entire life. My mom had gastric sleeve surgery. It tried to help save her life and did not save her life, right? And, I don't want to be that 54-year-old person who's worked his entire life. And when it's time to move on to the next phase of life, right, I'm not there. I'm not there for my family. I'm not there for my kids, not there for my grandkids. More importantly, God's called me to hundreds and hundreds of people that I get to serve every day. We've got over 200 team members on our team right now. And the reason why I do what I do is because I get to minister to our team. Like today, we had a Cinco de Mayo potluck with our whole entire team. And I got to pray over our entire team and bless the meal. And people came up to me afterwards and asked me for certain prayer afterwards. And I love doing that. Jesus changed my life, and I want to change other people's lives in the name of Jesus. So I felt like I was letting God down by being overweight and being obese and not doing the things that he called me to. The body's supposed to be a temple. It's one of the things that the Lord has asked us, called us to do. And I'm not doing it. So I felt like I was cheating God. And I feel like he wants me to do big things for not just for myself, but for others. And I was cheating him. I'm not going to be here by allowing myself to die slowly. I don't know if that's 100% what you were asking. I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight because I want to be healthy. I want to get healthy because I want to be able to do more for my family. I want to be healthy so that I can be a blessing to others.
Wow. Those are massive whys. And anybody that's listening, that's a parent, we are models for our example for our children speaks way, way, way louder than what we say to them. So they're always looking to us. What example do we want to be? So that's always a big why. And it's like faith, family, fitness, finances, friendships. Those are kind of the 5 F's for success in that order, I think, and can be all contributing factors to a powerful why. And like Simon Sinek says, it starts with why. And having that is, the focus of this week is really dialing that in. And so we started there. We took your initial measurements. And then I'm always a believer in simple steps and realistic steps. Chris is the hard charger. So he kind of dove in with both feet, quite literally. But, just kind of tell them how we simplified the process with what we called the 2020.
Yeah.
And, what was that like for you as the person doing the work?
It was It was easy, and I don't know. It was simple. I don't know. Simple was easy. I don't know. So it was 20 minutes of cardio of your choice, as long as you're able to get your heart in the right level of MEPS, which we're going to talk about in a minute. I want to talk about at least 20 minutes of cardio at whatever flavor you like, and then 20 minutes of sauna, sitting down and sweating to death. And that's how we started. And then you kind of rope-a-doped me with the second day. I was like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and do some more of that. And you're like, no, we're going to pound on some weights for a little while. So we did that. And then it was right back to the 2020 thing. So it was, our first week was a little bit of both, on and off.
And did you find those somewhat realistic?
Oh, yeah.
Given your busy schedule?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
and talk to people, because time is always the number one excuse.
Yeah.
And excuses are valid from time to time, but you, of all people, can explain, how to chunk and prioritize time. And you obviously, to Chris's credit, like, because I was worried about how is he going to, fit this into his busy schedule. He, told me like he plans out his week, and going forward, he'll make this part of his planning process. So walk people through that. For those of us in the audience and the listeners, like, where time is, you don't think you have the time. How did you make it possible?
Well, I mean, I have 5 companies, over 200 team members. We have over 130 trucks on the road every day. We've got lots of things moving on. 2 kids, 2 teenage kids, wife of married for almost 20 years this year.
Woo!
A lot going on, right? And so for me personally, I live and die by my schedule. My schedule, if you looked at my calendar right now, there's a block for every minute of every day. And I live and die by my schedule. I schedule everything, including my kids' stuff, my wife's stuff. We schedule everything. So I just made it a part of my schedule. So I went in and blocked off time in my schedule to do this. I'm always an early riser anyways. I don't know if that's going to be good for the audience out there. Not everybody is a early morning person, but I'm a dude that gets up. I can get up at 4 a.m. and be totally fine every day. So I make my time with the Lord, and I spend my time in my Bible study every day. And then I made time for this, and I just made it a priority. And there was 2 or 3 days where I was rushing back, barely making it to the first meeting, still sweating because I couldn't cool down enough from the sauna or from the workout. And you just got to apologize. Hey, you send a meeting. It's like, hey, I swear there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just sweating from the sauna a few minutes ago. And you just got to make it happen. That's what I did.
Yeah, that's powerful. One more thing that I'm going to ask you before we're going to turn the tables and go to my favorite part of the show, which is going to be called Chris's Questions.
Yes.
And this was Chris's idea. He's like, I have all these questions from, everyday people, and he's going to keep me from being too technical. That's his job, besides asking questions.
Yes.
But my last question, the one other big thing we dove into this week, because, I expressed to you why it's so important, but that was sleep. And sleep is kind of what I call one of the foundations of our pillars of health, because it affects everything else. So kind of explain just what we started with there, and where you're at on improving sleep.
I'm not typically a natural good sleeper. I'm not a very good sleeper. I get up so early, have been getting up so early for over 20 years. It's just natural for me. Sleeping in is like 5:30 or 6 a.m. So this might not resonate with everybody. But I'm, typically in bed no later than 9:30 typically. Right. So typically my typical night before this last week, sleep a couple hours up and down, sleep a couple hours up and down, sometimes up at 2 a.m. Worrying about stuff. This week, I started wearing my Apple Watch to sleep. I don't know why I even have Apple Watch if I wasn't using it for half the things that it does good, other than I like to tell time. But I put that on my sleep, and just between the workouts and just, I don't know what it is, but I slept fantastic every day. I think I showed you I was in almost 2 hours of REM almost every day. I had an hour and 45 minutes of deep sleep this last night. And I think it's a lot to do with working out and just doing the things that we've been doing. I think has helped my sleep like tremendously. I'm not waking up in the middle of the night at all right now.
Yeah. Do you remember from your perspective, what we talked about, and if you don't, that's fine. I will prove it. But why it's so important to measure sleep, because as you know, in business, what gets measured gets managed.
Mm-hmm.
But also what the end goal is as far as once we start measuring sleep, what are we looking for there, and why do we do it?
I remember you saying that you had been reading and you had thought that, or you had been taught, you're at a point now where you realize that like sleep was one of the most important things for health and fitness and nutrition, right? And so I don't remember exactly what we talked about 100%, other than I wasn't getting any, and I needed a certain amount of REM sleep a night. I needed a certain amount of deep sleep a night to restore my body, and something with your mind, I think, is what we were saying.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I remember that conversation. I don't know if that's where you're going with this or not. That's what
exactly.
Okay.
No, you remember the big picture. And,
okay. All right. Good.
Ironically, it's sleep is the foundation and affects. For weight loss efforts, sleep is foundational for kind of dictating our cortisol levels. For business, mental performance, cognitive function, brain function. Sleep is probably the single most contributing factor to how well our brain works and makes decisions. So for you, that makes probably hundreds of decisions or thousands of decisions, micro decisions every single day. Having optimum cognitive brain function will help you avoid those decisions you're just kind of struggling with. You're desiring that clarity of thinking so you can make quick, good decisions. But related to our journey, like sleep is foundational health, and Tony Robbins and that you mentioned, and Tom Bilyeu, and all these successful thought leaders and business leaders, we always, and guys and women too, pride ourselves. Ariana Huffington was probably one of the most loudest voices for this too, is we work ourselves for our cause, for the purpose, for the business, and we'll get all the sleep we need when we're dead. Yeah. And she documented how she collapsed in, I believe it was 2007, in the heyday when she was building Huffington Post, and got revived, and it was all from just lack of sleep and just burning the candle from all ends and throwing the whole candle in the furnace. Yeah. So the attitude is changing, and it's really switching gears to prioritizing sleep, and smart people sleep. And, it's really moving away from that stereotype of, I get up at 3 a.m. and I do more before 5 than, the old army saying before the whole world. But so we got to really prioritize sleep, and that's going to be part of this journey. And we'll talk a lot about that as we go. So that was kind of a good backdrop for the week from my perspective, and you sharing it, and some of the comments we're getting on people that are listening, that they love it, and that's powerful. So I'm going to turn it over to you for the segment we'll call Chris's questions, and some of the questions that you had pop up in your head that popped up this week, and some that we went over, and we wanted, and some that we didn't, hopefully. And so fire away.
Okay. All right. A couple things. So I want to get this out to the audience, right? So I came up with this idea to do this, to not document my journey. That was Matt's idea. My idea was to create this podcast, or whatever you call this thing. I don't know. I'm not technology savvy, but I really wanted to call it Fat and the Beast, right? Because this dude is the beast. And we sat in the sauna one day, and I was asking him, I was like, Matt, I am so stinking sore. Brother, I can barely even walk. I think about getting some of that creatine. You're like, and you went on this rant about creatine for like 4, 5, 10 minutes. I don't know what it was. And everybody in there, all these jacked up dudes were looking at you like, who the heck is this guy? And I was like, bro, you like are so smart. You overcomplicate everything. And it's such a great way that as normal, unhealthy fat folk don't know how to delineate your jargon that you use. And I was like, we got to do a podcast or something on this. So I'm giving the backstory of why I think we're doing this, at least from my side. So if you are listening and you have questions for Matt, write them down, and I will ask him those things as we do this more and more. But I have some today specifically. So first question, Matt. Okay. I go 8 days in a row to the gym. I bust my chops. I drink all the water. I do all the things and eat all the things, protein forward and sleep and all the good things. I go to yesterday and step on the in body, and I only lose 2 pounds in a week. What
Yes.
in the world is wrong with me?
The only thing that's wrong with you is possibly your expectations, which
Yes.
are very typical because especially as a high performing business owner, we want results, we want revenues, we want fat loss numbers, we want big numbers. Well, largely America was brainwashed, 20 years ago from a show called The Biggest Loser, and it kind of planted in our heads, kind of like the sleep thing I was talking about, that we can hit these big weight loss numbers. And the reality of that show, they did a follow-up study, and 10 years later, all the contestants that they could get willing to do this after study, and they almost, I think it was 97% gained all the way back or more, which is kind of disappointing and depressing. And the other thing was when somebody loses weight too fast, faster than is there's a lot of science, and I don't want to get into all those details, but there's a right way to do it and a wrong way. And the wrong way is extreme. And what happens in that process, and it's been well documented and proven in science, is that you ultimately you're going to sabotage your metabolism. And that study with The Biggest Loser showed that every single one of them during the show, when they lost 100 plus pounds in a very short amount of time, their metabolism went down by 30%. And so metabolism is how much your body burns in calories just sitting around on a day-to-day basis. And Chris, you learned your basal metabolic rate from the InBody. And that's kind of our engine in idle. And when you decrease that 30%, that is not a good thing. That means you have to eat 30% less calories just to maintain weight. But here's the scary part of that study. When they looked at them, even though they gained all of the weight back and then some, their metabolism was still 30% slower than it was before they started the show.
So 2 pounds weight loss for the first week is, in your opinion, good progress?
Yeah. So ongoing right now, your body is going through a metabolic shift. 88% of Americans are on some spectrum of metabolic dysfunction. The extreme is, high type 2 diabetic. And there's lots of indicators like blood pressure, triglycerides, A1C score, fasting insulin score, uric acid score, that would be used to confirm or diagnose you as metabolically dysfunctional to some degree. And those are all tests that we will be doing on our journey. And I would encourage people listening, talk to your doctor. You're going to have to be your own health advocate because you're going to know more if you follow us than your doctors. And if you're a doctor, I'm sorry, but it's time for you to step up and get with the times. Medicine 3.0. I have 25 doctors and nurses and medical professionals as clients, and they realize they need help too. And I'm going to help you by sharing what the most advanced physicians in the country are doing successfully to help their patients in their practice. And that's some of the tests that will reveal metabolic dysfunction. So what I would consider, going back to your question, a home run in the baseball metaphor for 2 pounds a week is awesome. So that's just the right amount of activity that's realistic. But who knows? Like, I don't really look at the InBody scores for the first couple of weeks because your body's just going through this metabolic shift. And
does the InBody tell me? Will the InBody tell me if this metabolic thing is changing in me? Will it show me that, or how does a normal human who's working out know if their metabolic rate is moving in the right direction?
Great question. And that reason I love the InBody, it's for those listening, what the hell's an InBody? It is just one of the technologies. Ours is about a $10,000 machine that has the highest correlation to DEXA scan, But if you're listening anywhere around the country, you can call the different MRI centers that have the same machine that does bone mineral density for your osteoporosis screening. That's the same machine called a DEXA, dual energy X-ray absorptiometry is what it stands for. And you can pay, just tell them you want a cash pay for a whole body DEXA. In most places, it's $100, and it's going to tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt what your muscle is, your fat, your visceral fat, your mental fat, all these other things, and your bone density as well. And that's kind of the gold standard. But the InBody, for a fraction of the cost and something I can have at our facility, it's going to be within striking distance of accuracy of a DEXA, and it gives us an easy tool, as you experienced, to monitor. So to answer your question, the reason we'll know and what I look at, right before we started today, I asked you to do your InBody yesterday, your 1 week, and sent me the results. And essentially what I do is look at with my clients as we go week to week or every 2 weeks at a maximum, is what is your muscle mass doing, your skeletal muscle mass versus your fat mass. Those two numbers, if I know you're holding or gaining muscle, that is directly correlated to your basal metabolic rate. So every piece of muscle tissue we have requires energy to keep and sustain. So it's metabolically active tissue. So we want our muscle, and we'll talk about more reasons for longevity down the road. That's my biggest reason I champion movement as the magic pill in life. But we're going to be monitoring your fat loss versus muscle gain or maintain. Okay. And if you gain or maintain muscle while losing fat, that's a home run. And up to 2 pounds, maybe 2.5 for somebody your size. But more than that, we start treading into those waters where you might be sabotaging your metabolism. And it may feel great now to lose 2.5, 3 pounds, but 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, you're going to hit this plateau and you'll be like, yo, coach, what the hell? What's going on? Why am I not losing weight anymore? So we kind of have to have that 1 year mindset, forward thinking. And we're playing for the long haul, for the long, the lifetime play right now. And that's why those 2 pounds, that was a huge victory.
All right. So we talk a lot about calories, right? Mm-hmm. What the heck is a calorie? What is a calorie? And how in the world do I know how many of them I'm supposed to have or not have?
Yeah, this is going to be pretty maybe controversial to some people or shocking, because I want to say I don't require my clients to count calories, because
thank you, Jesus.
Studies show if you do, even registered dietitians that have master's degree and are professionally prescribing diets to patients in hospitals, when they were asked to document their calories through any method possible and compared to what they actually ate with what's called calorie absorptiometry, it's just a way of measuring true consumption, they actually were 20% off to the wrong way. So they predicted they had 1,500 or 2,000 calories. They really had 2,400 calories. And studies have shown that for the average American, it's going to be, even using a fit app tracker like MyFitnessPal, you're going to be 20, 30, 40% off. So going back to the A word, awareness is what I teach. Awareness of the food you're eating, the order you're eating them, the quantity visually, yes, and the absence of hidden calories or liquid calories is going to set you up for much better success than counting your calories, and becoming aware of your appetite and learning strategies to avoid those extreme periods of hunger or hangriness are really, in my opinion, in my coaching practice, what I spend more time teaching, instead of forcing you to add another stressor to your life and document everything you put in your mouth.
I came home from meeting with you and doing our initial consultation, and I walked in. My wife's like, all right, what do I have to throw away at the house? And what kind of calories do you have to eat? What are we at? I was like, well, Matt didn't tell me I didn't have a calorie restriction. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, he talked about this protein forward scenario, and he wants me to do a couple of things differently and then kind of see what happens. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm committed. We're going to see what happens. And it's amazing because I say, no, I don't even want the bad stuff. I don't know. We want to get down this huge rabbit hole, man, of this whole protein forward. That might be for a different day, but that stuff has been working fantastic for me this week. And I haven't counted a single calorie. I want to delete and throw away my Fitness Pal app on my phone and totally throw it in the trash. So
we could do that without smashing your phone, but that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I have one more question for you, Matt. I don't know. We're getting to the time now. One more question. All right. So when you work out with you, one of the things that you absolutely require to be successful working under you and Triumph is to have a MyZone belt. What in the world is a MyZone, and what is a MEP, and why in the world do I need to wear that thing around my chest every time I go work out?
Yeah, that is a $1 million question. And first of all, the MyZone system, it's a heart rate tracker that you wear around your chest. They have a chest strap. They also do have the MyZone switch that has the watch and the armband feature. But anytime you stray away from the chest strap, you're trading comfort for accuracy. So I try to encourage my clients to use the chest strap. And after a couple workouts, you get used to it. And hopefully your experience would support that. But the MyZone system is the most accurate of all the heart rate monitors. And it's 99.4% accurate when you're wearing the chest strap of an EKG that you would experience at a hospital. And those of you that follow me know that I was at a hospital and I got a EKG about a month ago for this atrial flutter thing I had. And it was my MyZone belt that revealed to me that my heart rate was excessively high. So it's a very accurate device. And the reason I require my clients to wear it. Now, if they insist and they don't want to, and they basically want to not follow my advice, that's kind of a stamp of how the relationship is going to go. And I usually know how those turn out. But for the people that do decide, why I love it, and then you only wear it for exercise, is because it's far more accurate for predicting the quality of your exercise. Like sleep, we measure in quality and quantity, and exercise, we do the same. So what's great about the MEPS, it doesn't care how old you are, how much of a beast you are in the gym, whether you're a guy or girl, an athlete, or somebody in their 80s, it kind of levels the playing field because it is measuring intensity based on heart rate. So depending on what exercise and activity we are doing, we can apply a little bit of science to that activity. And when you were doing your 2020 that we talked about earlier, your 20 minutes of elliptical, do you remember about what percentage I told you to do it at for the audience's benefit?
I needed to be over 70% and no more than 75 or 71 to 76 or something like that. Was that the range?
Yeah, everybody give Chris a round of applause and a big hand because he nailed that one. It's 70-ish is the target. But for those of you that have some other, you may have a fitness tracker that measures heart rate. If it's worn on your wrist, 2 fingers above the wrist bone, wear it pretty tight, and that'll be about as accurate as those are going to be. But they're going to be typically 20% off, compared to the system we're talking about. But you can take 185, the number 185, and subtract your age from that. Okay. And that is about the predicted heart rate for what we call zone 2 cardio. Just as simple, the fat burning zone, which I don't like to call it that, but it's more about the mitochondria, which are these little parts of our cells, that the power plants of our cells. And that specific intensity level trains those mitochondria to start burning more fat for fuel. It turns on like they're hybrid engines, and we train them to burn sugar because we're cramming, sugar and carbohydrates down our throats all the time, myself included. I'm not pointing the fingers here. So I avoid temptations. Like if I was surrounded by cookies, I would be failing all the time. So I have the support at home with my wife, Holly, not to bring cookies in the house because they're my trigger food. But that being said, mitochondria, we can train by that specific intensity to activate those fat burning engines, so that they learn to burn more fat. And this
So you're
is just
saying
one
you're saying
journey.
just working out in the 70-ish%, and what you're saying right now, just working out in that zone will burn more fat than overworking out or underworking out or going too hard. Just being in that zone burns the most fat.
Well, what it is, it's the perfect intensity level to burn fat
Okay.
without stimulating your appetite. So a lot of people that go for runs and they're jogging at 80% of their heart rate, they're going to burn more calories during that activity, but it's going to also massively stimulate appetite. And what ends up happening is you end up replacing those calories in the foods and calories you end up consuming. So zone 2 is kind of the perfect balance of low intensity. It also helps the muscles circulate more blood to help them recover from the strength training that I feel is the most important component of an exercise program. And it's like giving yourself a little muscle massage, because that low intensity level helps flush out some of the metabolic waste and circulate more blood for healing throughout your body. So it's the perfect compromise. And we'll talk about in a future episode what I call the exercise pyramid, like the old food pyramid that got thrown out, thank God. But the base of that pyramid is zone 2. And that should be the majority of your activity. And then we go up from there with strength training, and then zone 5, which is higher intensity. And then we got our HIIT, which is that high intensity, which is the peak of the pyramid. So we'll break that down in a future episode for everybody. And
For me, I think, Matt, the my zone for me is I know it's required to work out with you, which I get why now, because when I'm by myself working out, right, the screen tells me how I'm doing, right? It's instant gratification of knowing if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing or not. And it keeps me accountable because people can see what I'm doing, right? You can see what I'm doing. I have friends in my zone that reach out to me and like high fives and stuff like that. But as I'm working out, I'm looking at this thing. I'm going, okay, Chris, you're being a little sissy. Like, step it up, boy. You're not in your 70% range. You know what I mean? So like I went this morning, I hit up the elliptical and I was like in the 68, 69. I'm like, what are you doing? It's 1% more. Go. Like, put it in, put the effort in. And if I didn't have that, I don't know if I would even have done that. You know what I mean? That's what I get out of it. So,
yeah, I mean, for years, and I've taught people like that either can't afford the technology or don't have access to it. You can use perceived exertion, and there's a fancy Borg scale of perceived exertion. But we as humans are like water. We like the path of least resistance, and we don't like a little discomfort. So it's much more likely that you'll hit that number having that feedback mechanism. It's truly biofeedback is what the heart rate monitor is. It's broadcasting your percentage real time to your phone screen. And when we're at our Triumph Fitness Studios in Largo, Florida, for anybody traveling to Largo, come check us out. But we display them on big screen TVs for all the coaches to monitor everybody's heart rate. So it goes back to things. I don't believe in tracking calories, but certainly being aware, but definitely believe in measuring heart rate, because intensity is something we don't want to shortchange ourselves. And going back, the last part of your question was what's a MEP, and the MyZone belt translates your efforts into what they call MyZone effort points. And from a psychological standpoint and reward mechanism and dopamine management, which we'll talk about in the future, dopamine is our motivation hormone. Yeah. The MEPS is a great way that I could say, Chris, our goal for this first month is 2,000 MEPS. And regardless of how you hit them, I know that's a victory, whether you do them in lots of slow, low intensity chunks, or a combination of slow and low and some lesser of high. But as long as you get those 2,000 in those first 30 days, that's going to be our goal for this first month. And then we'll step it up to 2,200, and then we'll ramp up, until we're hitting closer to 4,000, over probably in the 4 to 6 month range. And it's just another way that we can measure activity scientifically and have that feedback as we're doing the activity. So hopefully that answers your question. And my last question as we wrap up is, what was your biggest takeaway from the week, or lesson learned, or something you could share with the audience to encourage them that you feel like for the first week you're on track and you feel encouraged for the week going forward. And hopefully that's true. If it's not, and there's definitely be weeks where it might not feel that way, we want to talk about that too, because the struggle is real. There's going to be plateaus, and regardless, it's not always going to be rosy when we jump on here. So share that with the audience, and I can reword it if necessary.
I'll be honest. So a couple of things. First week, things I got out of the first week. So I was proud of myself for not missing a day. I was proud of myself for showing up in the morning. I was proud of myself for doing the things. I was super sore. Still I'm super sore, but working through that pain has been fun. I think two things, the calorie stuff is interesting for me because I'm expecting like calorie restrictions and hit this calorie and eat at this time and this and that. And it's been not as much super focus on nutritional. Every single thing has to be counted and measured and put in your mouth. And I kind of enjoyed that. I think it's also because I have a little backstory, Matt, because of the protein forward conversation we had and the shake stuff that we talked about. So for me, it was the ease of eating right. Having I'm not a huge protein shake person, but Matt has 2 fantastic protein shake recipes that he gave me, and I tried them both, and they're both fantastic. And even this morning with my wife, who will listen to this at some point, she hates protein, like absolutely hates protein shakes. And she took my blueberry one this morning, took a sip. She goes, "Hey, can I have the rest of this?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm gonna tell Matt he's about to turn a believer over here. So
she steal your shake?
She stole half my shake. Yes.
Okay, so, well, that's true love, Chris. That's true love, baby.
Yeah. So just I don't know. I was disappointed when I stepped on the scale right? The in-body. Steven could tell you. I was like, he looked at me. He's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Oh man, I was really hopeful for like 5 to 7 pounds." And he kind of gave me the same thing, coaching speech that you just did. So I was like, I'm gonna document this. I'm gonna bring this up in our beast talk here. It's true talk is you expect more sometimes and got to manage expectations. And if 2 pounds a week is it, then that's what it is. So
yeah, and just for your little bit of edification, if my memory serves, last time when you had done it last time, you were kind of, if I recall correctly, I don't think you had eaten much that day. So you're probably a little more fasted going into that first weigh in from some of the things you were trying to do. And then whereas hopefully when you did it yesterday, you were on this protein forward meal plan and not starved and still lost 2 pounds. And
that's right.
Perfect. Well, super excited for the journey. For everybody who doesn't know Chris, he's such an awesome dude. And, just the fact that we're both creative minds and, figuring out, it was his idea of how we could serve people by coming up with a podcast and documenting this journey. And then my insane creative brain ran with it. And here we are. I'm super excited for the journey. And for those of you that are watching, and the big takeaway from today is don't do it alone. If you want some help, we have 2 resources. And the first one is absolutely completely free if you're on Facebook. It's our Facebook group called Triumph Nation, and it's for helping purpose-driven, time-starved people like Chris with their health and happiness. And we have free tools, and it's a great community to be part of. You just request to join us on Facebook. It's called Triumph Nation, and we spell Triumph with a Y right there because that is you. You're the Y in Triumph. So that's one resource. If you want coaching, you want to have a little bit more specific guidance and accountability and handholding, I have a program called Road to Health that I can help you like I am with Chris. He's going through the process. And that's a way you can not do it alone and have more specific guidance. So we have both those resources. So if you're watching or watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can put Nation in the comments if you want us to send you an invite for Triumph Nation, or you can put coaching in the comments if you'd like more information on our Road to Health coaching program. So with that, next week, we'll jump on here and talk about the next chapter, we'll dive into that protein forward that Chris alluded to, and whatever topics. You can put those in the comments that you want. If there's questions that you have, let us know. A lot of people know Chris, and reach out to him, and hopefully by next week we'll have this strolling on his social as well. So we'll be reaching the world. Chris, any final thoughts?
No, I'm just excited for the journey. I'm blessed to do this with you, man. I'm thankful for you and Holly and the things you guys have created at Triumph, and just who you are as a human. And just I'm thankful that God has put us together, man. I'm looking forward to this time.
Beautiful. So are we. And it is a faith journey for both of us, in a way that we can serve and be stewards. So for all those reasons, I feel blessed to be with you, and look forward to seeing you soon. I'm in Vegas for my mom's 80th birthday, and we're going to celebrate that tomorrow. And I'm also here for a conference called GSDCon for fitness owners. So I'll be back on Monday, and we'll be getting it. So Chris, you're on your own until then, but you're never alone, because I'm only a shout or a text away. So with that, we'll sign off, and thank you for watching the FAT2Fit show. Share, like, you know the deal, and let more people know about us. So we'll catch you next week on the FAT2Fit show.
See you, man.
See ya.